Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to the BFS Fishing Channel. And in this video, we're going to be going over a new reel from Ifishband. Before we get started though, I do want to apologize for not making any content for a while, but sometimes real life kind of is more important. Anyways, we've got a new clamber from Ifishband, and this is going to be kind of a not a genuine first unboxing. I've actually already opened this box for this reel once before, and the reason why I'm making a kind of redoing the video is because the first time around I found some really not so great things. So the first time around, and I'll kind of overlay some photos and whatnot, what I did find was some QC issues, and I kind of had to go back and do a little bit of cleaning and do a little bit of flushing of the spool bearings to kind of get the reel to where it is right now, where it actually feels pretty good in hand. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into the box. I'll go ahead and do the spec dump and let you guys take a look at what you get in the box. So again, this is not a real genuine unboxing. This is just to show you what you do get in the box. So in the box, you do get the reel, and it does come in a bag, but it's not going to be in the bag on this one. You do get their instructions, and I'll go ahead and show you the spec sheet, or sorry, the schematic. I have gone ahead and kind of dotted where all the ball bearings are supposed to be, and I kind of did the same thing on the schematic itself, as well as a question mark, because that's where they're including a bushing, which makes this a 10+1 ball bearing reel and not an 11+1 ball bearing reel. So we'll talk about that in a second. But anyways, here's the schematic. We'll go ahead and close that. The rest are just going to be general instructions and general how-to, but all of it's in Chinese. So you're going to have to use translation software through your phone, most likely. You do get a nice bag, but you know, that's kind of unnecessary. And anyways, here is the reel. And on first glance, I gotta say the reel is, to me, it seems very, very heavily influenced by another Daiwa reel. It seems like Ifishband likes Daiwa reels. I don't have the exact one that they say that they kind of based this reel off of, but I've got the predecessor. This is the SS Air TW. What I was told was that the benchmark for this reel is actually the Steez Air. So you can kind of see the similarities between the two reels. They like that red accent. They've got that black frame. This one is going to be a matte finish. I think that's closer to what the Steez Air actually is. And then they both use the Daiwa eye-shaped knobs. Yeah, kind of the shape is a little bit different. I mean, it looks like they've kind of gotten some influence from the older Aldebaran, like the 2016. And then it does look a little bit reminiscent of the KastKing Kestrel Elite with that little beak there. But anyways, this aside, we'll go ahead and show you some close-ups of the reel, and hopefully this is all in frame. Some interesting things to note: this is a solid spool. There's no cutouts in it. This does have a conical line guide. I'm not sure if you guys can see down into there, which is pretty nice. And then it uses a very traditional style brake dial knob, which is also very nice. The handle knobs are virtually carbon copies of the Daiwa. I mean, look at those covers right there. If you took this off, you wouldn't be able to tell which one goes to what. And that's kind of cool. I mean, like, very heavily influenced. You can see the shape is almost identical. The length is almost identical. So very, very heavily influenced by Daiwa there. They have gone ahead and changed the handle knob, or the handle itself, from a carbon handle in the Clamber version 1 to an aluminum anodized version. But okay, let's go over the specs for this. So this reel is coming with a 5.3 gram shaftless spool, and that's compared to the 7.7 gram spool of the Clamber 1. And so here you go. You can take a look at the spool itself. This does have an inductor plate, and the braking system is going to be a standard mag-track style braking system. It comes with 10 magnets altogether. I did have some issues with the spool pin, which I'll get to in a little bit after I do the spec dump. This is a 30mm spool on the very outer diameter. in the inner diameter where the line actually lays, it's a 25 millimeter spool. And so I'll go ahead and calculate IPT for both the 30 millimeter outer diameter and also the 25 millimeter inner diameter, and then leave that in the description down below. Ifishband claims that this comes with a 12.5% thicker main gear, which means that it's going to be stronger. It does have these nice TPU coated rubber knobs with a metal or aluminum handle. We talked about the MagTrack style brakes. This does come with a magnesium aluminum alloy frame, which is pretty nice for what you get at the price point. This is a made in Korea reel, and so that's a little bit different from what you see with most of the other quote-unquote budget reels out there. Clamber 1, I believe, was also made in Korea by the same company. The all-up weight is going to be 140 grams, and we'll check that in a second. Compared to the Clamber version 1, which comes in at 151 grams, this has approximately 5 kilograms of drag strength reported, compared to 4.5 of the Clamber version 1. And then this right now only comes in one gear ratio, which is the 7.2 to 1, compared to the Clamber version 1, which comes in several different gear ratios. And then finally, this has a 10+1 ball bearing system, whereas the Clamber version 1 only has 9+1, and both reels are going to be rated for 1 to 10 gram lures, which we'll test in a future video. Okay, so let me get some weights, and then we'll talk about some of the issues, and I'll show you guys some pictures of those issues that I had and what I did to solve them. So we'll go ahead and measure the spool, and it has a little bit of painter's tape. So this is going to come in with a 5.29 gram spool, which is very, very close to what they reported, and actually a little bit under, mainly because I actually flushed some of the grease out of the spool bearing. So I think it was like a 5.31 on my first measurement, which, yeah, pretty negligible difference there. And then we'll go ahead and get the all-up weight of the reel itself. Notice this side plate actually is a slide lock, but it goes from above. I'm used to kind of coming from underneath and swinging up, but this goes from above and down. You do also have to have that lever open when you lock it in place. Okay, so let's get the all-up weight. And this comes in at 142.3 grams, which is pretty close to the reported 140 gram all-up weight. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of the issues that I experienced, and I'll overlay some photos like I said. So one of the first things when I first unboxed this reel was that I noticed that the retrieve felt a little bit rough, and it still does feel a little bit on the rough side, but it's not nearly as bad. And I did a little bit of preemptive cleaning, but not much, because I want to save all of that for the actual teardown video. So you'll notice there's still maybe a little bit of shavings right here. What I did to clean that up was just remove the handle and then reassemble everything. And so I'll show you a photo here of what I saw underneath the lock nut, which was pretty bad, and then also underneath the star drag, which is heavily greased. So I did a little bit of cleaning, and then also in addition to that, I did go ahead and flush the spool bearing and also the side plate bearing. And the issue that I faced with that was when I went to remove my spool pin, it doesn't really seem like there's like a friction fit with the spool pin. And so when I went to reinstall the spool pin, I actually experienced it where the spool pin was just super loose. And so as a workaround, there's no like ridge or ring around where you can use a piece of braid to kind of tie it on and act like a clip of sorts. So the only workaround that I could find was to actually use some CA glue. And so I just put a tiny dab on the spool pin before reinserting it into the spool shaft. And that seems to be holding it very well. And the CA glue will break loose when you use your spool pin removal tool next to kind of pop out the pin if you ever need to again. And so after that, the spool bearing does rotate quite well, as you can see here. It's still going right now. I did replace some of that lost grease from the acetone bath with a bit of low viscosity oil, and I did the same thing for this bearing here. and I'll show you the result of the free spool, which, you know, again, it doesn't tell you what kind of performance you can expect, but it's nice to see, you know. All right, so let me show you a little bit of free spool. And the reason I put that tape there is so you can actually see the spool spinning. So it's still going right now and just stopped right now. And you can see that it's just the tiniest bit of side-to-side play. Okay, so everything on this reel clicks. So here is the sound of the actual drag clicking. So there you go. And then here's the sound of the star drag clicking. And then actually the spool tension, I took out the clicker on that, but it's a very loud click as well. So I am not the biggest fan of the spool tension knob clicking, so I removed that little clip that makes it click. And so I'll show you how I did that in the teardown video. But I'm also not a fan of star drag clickers as well, especially this one, because it feels really kind of loose. Just not very solid feeling for some reason. And the reason why I don't like clickers on these two parts of the reel is because typically you're making fine-tune adjustments, and what happens is as you're making those fine-tune adjustments, as you get to the point where the clicker is going to make that sound, it actually kind of jumps to that point, especially on the spool tension knob. And so it's not something that I feel is like super duper useful. You don't really need that extra clicking sound or information for either of those pieces. Whereas, you know, with the drag clicker itself, the clicker mechanism is meant to give you information about the rate of line payout. So when you hear the clicking kind of slowing down, you know that the fish is starting to slow down. You can kind of crank on it. Or when the fish is pulling really fast and you hear that click, 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 click really fast, and that'll tell you how fast the fish is actually taking drag. So yeah, everything clicks on this reel. You heard how loud it is. The clicker portion itself is actually kind of muted, and I'm not really the biggest fan of that sound, but we'll see what kind of clicker mechanism they're using inside the reel. I will say that the clutch feels quite good, and it sounds very, very positive. This being a magnesium aluminum alloy, it has like a very, the only way I can really describe it is almost like a hollow feeling, but it's not quite a hollow feeling at the same time. So apparently magnesium kind of has a resonance to it. So when you actually click your clutch, you're kind of feeling the vibrations still resonating within the frame itself. And this is compared to something like carbon, which you can actually feel it really quickly, and it does feel more hollow, but the actual shock, I guess, or vibration kind of dissipates very quickly. This one kind of lasts and lingers. And then there's the contrast with like an aluminum reel where you don't really feel it as much because aluminum is much heavier and more dense, and it doesn't really seem like it actually has that resonance to it. I will say that maybe, you know, 1 out of like 10 times I'll get kind of a non-positive disengagement of the clutch or the pinion itself. And so you'll have to, you know, re-engage and then disengage again in order to kind of fix that issue. And so I want to see what's causing that on the inside of the reel. And so anyways, I think that's going to do it for this video. The reel does feel pretty good. I had to do a little bit of that pre-tuning, that very so slight pre-tuning to make it feel a lot better. But yeah, I am excited to spool it up. I'm also excited to tear it down and test it out and see what this reel is all about. You can get this reel for, I think it's going for $102, and they're selling it on AliExpress, and I'll leave a link down in the description below. I don't believe it's an affiliate link or anything like that. And then I think DanKung is also selling this reel. But if you want to get it faster, I think AliExpress is going to get it to you a little bit quicker, especially if you're in the States. So yeah, this is a non-sponsored review of this. And yeah, if you have any questions about the reel, if you want me to look at anything in particular, please go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section down below. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for being patient with me, guys. It's been a while since I've gotten a video out, but hopefully I'll get back into the groove and get more videos out to you guys sooner rather than later. I really, really, really appreciate you guys watching if you've watched the video all the way to this point right now. If you've liked the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you didn't, go ahead and give it a thumbs down. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel grow. And yeah, with that being said, thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.